Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our February edition of our Commissioner School Counselor Advisory. We are so excited that you were able to join us today. We know that your days are very busy and every minute counts, so we thank you for giving your time to this important meeting that we are about to have. Just go over a few quick attendance and housekeeping before we get started today. As you just heard, the session is being recorded. That's just for your situational awareness. So if you can, please make sure that your microphone is muted. That way we do not have conversations broadcasted to the group that they are not privy to. We want to make sure that any conversations that are happening are intentional. Also, we want to make sure that you keep your camera on. It's really hard to connect in virtual spaces, but thankfully we have great platforms such as this that allows us to see one another so that we can interact with each other during virtual meetings. Next, we want you to stay engaged in the conversation. Your voice is the whole reason why we're here today. It's very valuable. So we want you to feel comfortable to either unmute and join the conversation or drop anything that you might want to ask or add into the conversation in the chat. Both of those features are available to you. And after each presentation today, we do have designated time for discussions so that we can actually hear your voice and we give space to do that. This one, I did just remind you that it's being recorded, but also as part of an advisory for our commissioner, the recordings and everything are placed online. So that's just for, again, your situational awareness, so that you are aware that what is being said is going to be posted, and wanted you to make sure that you knew that. Santina is, I'm going to turn it over to her so she can take attendance. And then after attendance, we will approve prior meetings.
Okay, good morning, everybody.
You're muted, Santina.
Good morning.
Yeah, I thought I clicked on it. I hate when that happens. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm going to call attendance, so if you'll just quickly unmute and let me know that you're here. Courtney Benningfield from Glasgow Independent.
Here.
Thank you. Alicia Bush from Warren County. Rachel Caswell from Fort Thomas Independent.
Here.
Good morning. Strazzy Collins from Jefferson County. Chesley Crane from Simpson County.
Here.
Thank you. Scott Danner from Union County. Kelly Fox from Boyd County. Fatimia Fusen from Whitley County. Suzanne Gibbs from Corbin Independent.
Here.
Thank you. Terry Hall from Boone County. John Hargis from Pulaski County.
I'm here, ma'am.
Thank you. Mary Lewis from Berea Independent. Julie Link from Russellville Independent. Jessica Longland from Boone County. Carla McCarty from Paintsville Independent. Carrie McGrath from Clark County. Antonio Melton from Fayette County. Heather Moore from Boyd County. Paula Moore from Jefferson County.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. Cordia Pickrell from Jefferson County. Garrick Lee Ratliff from Craft Academy. Manija Reynolds from Jefferson County. Mindy Rose from Callaway County.
I'm here.
Thank you. Good morning. Carl Shainsigal from Graves County.
I'm here.
Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Shainsigal, yes, ma'am.
Shainsigal. Thank you. So I make sure. Jelena Wheeler from Russell Independent. Chloe Wilcher from Lincoln County.
Here.
Thank you. Kristen Williamson from Clark County.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. Thank you. Anyone that I did not call, or if you just joined us, please let me know.
This is Heather Moore from Boyd County.
Okay. Good morning, Heather. I got you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
All right. Also wanted to acknowledge before we move forward, we do have quite a few folks that are not here yet. I have someone that's going into the teams to kind of direct people back here, so we may have to do attendance again at the end for folks that we missed. But our state has gone through a lot of great tragedy right now, and our counselors are working overtime to meet the needs of not only the students, but their school communities as well, as so many of them have experienced flooding and crisis themselves with the weather that has impacted our state. So just some awareness to that. And if anyone needs to talk or needs support, please let me know, because we definitely want to provide that to you. Okay, we also sent out the prior meeting minutes. Thank you, Santina, for taking those minutes for us in December. I sent those out in the agenda so that you have time to approve those. If I could get someone to approve, and if you do that, just unmute and say your name and that you approve, and then I'll get a second. And I'm going to wait about a minute. Oh, thank you, Paula Moore.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chloe. Again, those are in the meeting invite, so if you want to go back and look at those, you are more than welcome to do that. So for today, I'm going to click on the agenda. This is also was sent out. I'm really excited for you guys to hear our presenters today. First, you're going to hear from our amazing Deputy Commissioner, Dr. Thomas Woods Tucker. Then we are going to hear from Rob Collins as we think about competency connections and aligning those with K-12 and post-secondary competencies. Then we're going to hear from Dr. Judy Vanderhaar and Blake Coney on human trafficking. We have some new materials as well as new trainings that are available that you guys are going to be the first to hear about. And then I'm going to give you some quick updates on the school counselor use of time, and we will wrap up with questions and additional feedback. With that being said, we're going to start off with a quick inclusion activity just to kind of get our brains working this morning. If you can, drop in the chat or you can unmute. What are you looking forward to the most about spring? The weather, yeah. Vacations, Jessica, that's what I'm looking forward to. Longer days, being able to be outside. Oh, wow. Chloe's taking 40 seniors to Florida. You're going to have a great time. I love senior trips. I miss those. Rob says the front porch and just sitting out there. I kind of like the crispness, that cold bite just a little in the morning times that a great cup of coffee can handle. And then gradually letting that warm up. John says graduation. Yeah. Graduation, being able to see a year through with conclusion with our students and celebrating them. Dr. Tucker likes to go hiking in Kentucky and Colorado. I love hiking. Watching your son play track, outside walks. Thank you guys. Yes, and I am a lake girl too, Chelsea. Like the lake is my happy place where I can disconnect and recharge. And I am really looking forward to being able to do that again. And then lastly, this is a little bit different. If you could instantly become an expert in something, anything, like instantly you were an expert in something, what would it be? Ooh, Jessica, autism. Yes. This one takes a little bit more to think about. Chloe, parenting. I think parenting expertise comes with the job, right? Like each kid is so different and what they need is so different. And as parents, we learn and grow too. Paula wants to learn an instrument. Ooh, Rob says AI engineering. Judy wants to ice skate. I would like to be an expert in like finances and stock market, and because that's not something I was ever taught. Time management, trauma-based interventions. Y'all are killing it this morning. Thank you so much for getting involved. These are great activities that you can also do with your staff or your students before you go in and start counseling sessions, that whole classroom, or even anything with staff. Like before a staff meeting, we know that sometimes the energy in the room needs to come up a little bit, and this gets people thinking and talking and engaged. Properly compensating and preaching the gospel about educators. And yes, Dr. Tucker. Educational law. All right, with this, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Tucker, who is a huge advocate for our school counselors and works really hard every day to uplift the important work that you all do. So Dr. Tucker, if you would like to join us.
Good morning, everyone. And Dr. Searcy, thanks for that wonderful, wonderful compliment. It's easy to do when we look at the magnificent work that our school counselors and other educators do to improve and save the lives of our kids. One of the things I've really taken to heart to in working with Dr. Searcy and other school counselors is the importance of being mindful and the importance of reflection. Dr. Searcy mentioned for us to pause and think about the flooding that's happening and some of the tragedies that happen in our schools. So I would like for us to take a quick minute to just think whatever happy thoughts that you have, whatever mindful things that you have that really settles you. Let's take a minute. And this is really for you, because when we finish this meeting here in a little bit, you're going to be thrown right back into the fire and dealing with these travesties, whether it's human trafficking that Dr. Vanderhaar is going to talk about, or a boy or a girl crush that you all deal with each day. So let's take a quick minute, a quick mindful and reflection minute. All right, thank you. I have a few announcements and updates from the Kentucky Department of Education that I will share with you. Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman, as you all know, is a huge, fierce advocate for public education. She is a public educator. She and the Commissioner of Agriculture, Mr. Jonathan Shell, and our very own commissioner here at KDE, Dr. Robbie Fletcher, announced that March 17th through the 21st will be the first statewide agricultural education week in Kentucky. And also, to cap it off, our governor, Andy Beshear, will sign a proclamation that week to officially mark this historic occasion. Secondly, Kentucky just celebrated 117 national certified teachers during its pinning ceremony on February 6th. I think this was the 9th largest class in the entire nation. So if any of you, and certainly any of your colleagues back in your buildings, were part of that wonderful historic ceremony as well, please give them a round of applause or a pat on the back. The Kentucky Board of Education recently honored CTE month here in February. It's an opportunity that's really a nationwide event to help raise awareness for the role of CTE, as that role and how it is important in helping learners get ready for college, career, and also life, college, career, and life success. And then the third thing that I'll mention is that the governor signed a proclamation naming February also as Gifted Education Month. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear signed this proclamation recently. And a couple weeks ago, on February 13th, I should say, Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman presented this proclamation at the Capitol Rotunda, and I was so pleased to be on hand to make some comments, not only recognizing our gifted students and gifted educators. We know parents play a big role, but also the role that our building educators, including our school counselors, play. Dr. Searcy, that's all I have, unless anyone has any questions, concerns for me. As you all know, this is my favorite meeting, but in about 10 minutes, as you know, Dr. Searcy, I have an audit, one of the favorite things I like to do. I have an audit coming up in about 10 minutes, but I'll stick on as long as I can.
Thank you, Dr. Tucker. And I appreciate the moment that you started with just to pause. Like sometimes we are still in our body, but we don't take the time to still our minds. And if you guys were like me, like after about 10 seconds, it got a little harder for me to keep my mind still. And I had to really concentrate on that because we are always so used to go, 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 go. So those brief moments of pause really can help us. All right, before I turn it over to Rob Collins, Santina, we've had a couple more people come in and I want to grab that attendance before, in case they have to leave early or something pulls them away. So if you are here and missed our roll call at the beginning, if you can unmute and let Santina know, or you can drop it in the chat. It's okay, no apologies needed. That's real life, Chloe. We have someone that had to leave for a fire drill. That is real life. Again, thank you to Dr. Tucker for all of his support and just wisdom and knowing what folks need. And that moment of pause was amazing. Thank you. All right, Rob, I am going to turn it over to you. You do have sharing rights, so I can stop sharing and you can share your screen so you can drive, or I'm more than happy to do that for you. Which would you prefer?
I can share screen. That's fine.
Okay, wonderful. So you all, this is Rob Collins. He is going to talk to us today about Competency Connections, and he is a part of our Innovative Program Consultant in the Division of Innovation here at the Kentucky Department of Education. So Rob, thank you so much for joining us today, and you have the screen.
Fantastic. First off, I'll begin. It's genuinely a pleasure to be here with you. Already the mindfulness and how alive the chat has been, I will just say is not always the case in a KDE meeting. So truly a joy to be here. And this is the first time I've been with a group of counselors in a while. But I'll just introduce myself really quickly. My name is Rob Collins, as Michelle was saying. I am an innovative programs consultant in the Division of Innovation, which is in our Office of Continuous Improvement and Support. Before joining KDE around 3 years ago, I was an English teacher for upperclassmen in Greenup County, Kentucky. I spent about 8 years in Greenup County. So I will say, as a former English teacher of 11th and 12th graders, my counselors were my best friends. I would not have gotten through the year without them. So truly, it is a joy to be here with you today. And also, I will say that I come today to talk about the continuum of competency frameworks in Kentucky, and specifically with the question of how we can align the K-12 portrait of a learner with the post-secondary Kentucky graduate profile. And knowing that counselors are probably the folks most close to that work and bridging that gap for our students, it's really valuable to get your feedback. So our goals today, first, to communicate the purpose of Kentucky's P20 frameworks, and then some of the potential alignment that has been happening, and then also to gather feedback to shape the future of how we communicate this to stakeholders, families, parents, and students. Before we begin, though, I do have a question. Maybe by a show of hands, if you want to use the React feature or actually physically show your hand, how many of your districts have developed a portrait of a learner, or a portrait of a graduate, as it's sometimes called? Okay, I see a few hands. Okay, awesome, cool. So quite a lot of you. It's good to hear. Well, with that in mind, you probably have some context, but I'm really going to be digging into the Kentucky Portrait of a Learner that was adopted by our Board of Education. Though do keep in mind that many of our local districts have created their own version, and we'll talk more about that later. This is a partnership between the Kentucky Department of Education, specifically our Division of Innovation, which holds that Portrait of a Learner work at the state level, but also with the Council for Post-Secondary Education, which really focuses on our public universities and their work. And as I mentioned before, we aim to align the competencies of the K-12 Portrait of a Learner with the post-secondary graduate profile to ensure that our students have the skills necessary to be successful in their work life, in their home life, as citizens, really aligning those goals to ensure at the end of their education career, our students are prepared to lead joyful, effective, productive lives. So I do want to start off with the benefits of statewide learning frameworks. First, with a state push from both the K-12 and post-secondary level, it really does communicate to our students and our families the value of education across a continuum. It provides structure and coherence to learning experiences. And what we see in a lot of our districts are creating frameworks around their portraits to really ensure competency development. It helps students understand what knowledge, skills, and abilities they're gaining from their public school education, which I know in a room of educators, we've all heard the question, why am I learning this? Why am I doing this? These frameworks can help communicate that to students more clearly, especially in the long view. And it allows our employers to understand what we as K-12 and P20 institutions are preparing our students with as they enter their lives as adults. So that being said, the Kentucky Board of Education has adopted a K-12 Portrait of a Learner. This portrait consists of 6 competencies. They are productive collaborator, engaged citizen, critical thinker, creative contributor, empowered learner, and effective communicator. So these represent the personal traits, dispositions, skills, and what we call competencies that we hope to develop in our students through their K-12 career. Many districts are designing performance assessment systems that specifically tailor to those competencies and building them in a rich and robust way. And though KBE has adopted a statewide portrait, I really do want to say that we have not made this a mandate. So many of our districts have created their own competencies in tandem with their districts. So bringing in community members to really surface what matters to our particular community, what skills do our students need. And you'll see there's a lot of variability across our districts that have created portraits. Some have 4 competencies, some have up to 8. There are some districts considering other frameworks that have a wide variety of skills that are inclusive of many competencies. So I do want to communicate the flexibility there and also the commitment to honoring local districts' desires, needs, and autonomy. That also being said, I would like us to engage in a thought experiment really quickly, just knowing that we are K-12 counselors here. If you could take about a minute and think of a time in the past month or so where maybe you have exhibited a skill that is one of these competencies. I'll start with an example. Engaged citizen. I've been keeping up with the legislation that's been happening, and I have reached out to my legislators about some bills that I've been happy about and some bills that maybe I think are questionable. So in that way, I've been living engaged citizen. So if we could get some examples in the chat, I'd appreciate it.
Rob, if you can repeat the question, I can type it in the chat just in case we have people coming in and out for fire drills and all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. So the question is, how have you exhibited one of these competencies in the past month or so? Just a quick example. And Michelle, if you'd like to call some examples out, if they pop up.
I think productive collaborator, what we're doing right here. As
Absolutely.
we collaborate with as school counselors, there's legitimately no part of the educational system that we don't work within. So oftentimes we are the ones that kind of bring awareness from one facet of education to another, and that collaboration is so important.
Agreed. I'm thankful to be collaborating with you now. I'm truly, thank you so much for the time. So agreed. I can't tell if there are any others popping
Yep.
up. I'm in that
Here's,
weird
I'll
single
read them to
screen
you
thing.
because I know it's hard to see. So, effective communicator, we have to do this often with teachers as counselors. So making sure that we're communicating with school staff well. Cordia said, I had to use critical thinking skills to think of resources and tools for a student yesterday that was in crisis.
Uh,
Dr. Vandahar says, I feel like I productively collaborate with my coworker, including Blake.
Hey, we love to hear it. So thank
Have
you for sharing. And yeah,
two more, and then I'll turn productive collaborator writing curriculum for college readiness, and that is from Garrick. And then John says effectively communicating date changes for after school events due to weather and school cancellations. Woo, that one, I think we need some maybe some mindful moments after we try to reschedule all of that. Thank you guys for participating.
yes, absolutely. So the challenges are real, but also so too are your dedication and commitment and skill building in making these things happen. So thank you for that. And I do want to say we have out of our 171 districts, over 140 are working on building their own portraits of a learner. So when we talk about portraits of a learner, I know oftentimes you hear a buzzword like that and think, oh, it's just the next fad, it's not going to last. Without mandate, 140 of our districts have said this work matters to our communities, and we want to build this in tandem with our communities. So there's a few examples on the screen there, but we're really excited about this work and excited to be supporting it. Which leads us to our post-secondary Kentucky graduate profile. So this was developed a few years prior to the K-12 portrait, and it encompasses 10 skills. I won't read them all to you. They are on the screen. But essentially, these were designed as essential skills that are needed for post-graduation success from a university. It's aligned with national frameworks. So CPE put in really intentional work in ensuring this is durable across the nation. The 10 skills are embedded in both general and major education courses and also co-curricular experiences. So there has been intentional design in ensuring these live within the curriculum of a university class. And the goal is really for the graduates to articulate these skills, so understand that they've been building them and share about them, but also to demonstrate them to prospective employers. And it's worth noting that all 24 of our community and technical colleges and public universities use this framework. So it really has traction across the Commonwealth. Now, that being said, two different frameworks that were developed at different times. There was a question about alignment. Fortunately, that's been a lot of our work over the past couple of months with CPE, is seeing where do these learning frameworks align. So you'll see on the screen right now is just a quick overview of some of that alignment. And what we have at the top is the post-secondary graduate profile competency, those 10, and then underneath are the K-12 competencies that fit within that particular framework. And the question for us then is, how do we ensure this alignment is communicated well? How do we ensure that the transition from K-12 to post-secondary in the context of these frameworks is seamless? And that's really where counselors come in, I think, as sort of the stewards of that transition for many of our students.
Hey,
So
Rob,
that
can you go
yeah,
back to that real
absolutely.
quick?
Yes.
So y'all take a look at this and look at these 10 different attributes in the words underneath them. These, so many of these are our competencies, our mindsets and behaviors that counselors are responsible for in delivering to students. So communication, critical thinker, we want them to be engaged citizens, productive collaborators. Like these are all components that school counselors bring to the table and align perfectly with our student mindsets and behaviors from our national organization. So I just think that is exceptionally powerful to see that connection and to know how important your work is to get our students where they need to be. And it starts at the elementary level, the pre-K level. We want them to learn to be critical thinkers when they're young, and that will empower their learning throughout their life. So yeah, I really like this in thinking about how these connect with our mindsets and behaviors.
Awesome. That was context I didn't have, so thank you for adding that. And on that note, really the reason I'm here is to hear your opinions and to get your feedback. So we've come up with 3 questions for feedback, given what I've just shared about these competency frameworks. So I'll share those, and I'm happy for us to talk in the chat about them if folks want to come off mute, just to give us an idea of how we move forward as a partnership between KDE and CPE. So first question, what are the value propositions that these frameworks could provide to counselors, teachers, parents, and students from your perspective as counselors? Second is, how do you envision aligning these frameworks with your school's current initiatives for college and career readiness? And third, what more do counselors need to know in order to facilitate the use and closer alignment of these frameworks? So these 3 questions, I'll leave them here. And I am happy to take notes and listen in as you share. And also feel free, if you want to share in the chat, that's welcome as well, or come off mute. Also, if you have questions, I can try to answer them as well.
Rob, just thinking about that question number 1, what value could these frameworks provide to counselors, teachers, parents, and students? For some of our school counselors, it can be challenging to get face-to-face time with students. They may get some pushback in taking kids out of instructional time or pushing into the classroom to do classroom counseling with students. That for some, that is very hard to get that face-to-face time. I think being able to purposefully align with our ASCA standards, what mindsets and behaviors we are going to be teaching, and tie that to the framework that we just saw, so that there is a clear connection. Because so many times, educators don't realize that as school counselors, we have standards for students too. We have educational standards as well, just like they have standards in whatever subject matter they teach. So I think the more that we can connect that, the better they understand our role and see how that fits into the education of our children.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And you said ASCA standards. Could you give me that acronym?
It is the American School Counseling Association. And I am more than happy to send those to you. And even like I'm thinking for the work of this group, even do a crosswalk and be able to see at the elementary level, these are the standards we're teaching that matches our portrait of a learner here. The same with middle school and with high school. And there will be quite a few standards that will overlap. And even for our building leaders to be able to see, oh, my school counselor is going to cover this. But to do that, I need to give them face time with students and time in order to deliver those lessons to students.
Absolutely. Thank you. Sorry, I'm hastily scrawling notes right now.
You are perfectly fine. So out to the group, if you've already seen your school's portrait of a learner, portrait of a graduate, whichever one that they have you been a part of that? And if not, how do you envision that you could be more involved in making those connections? Oh, Jessica, thank you for dropping that in the chat. She says, we have started adding portrait of a graduate standards to our SEL lesson plans. Excellent.
In Jefferson County, I feel like I'm still quite new. I was in Oldham for 20 years. And so we did a lot more of what I really saw in your pictures at the beginning of your presentations with our development of portrait of a graduate in Oldham. I was part of that process where we charted all the things and like really started from the foundation. Here, I think they were ahead of us in Jefferson County in that sense that that's established. And so I guess my involvement at my level is through the Journey to Success, which is where our students do their defenses. And that continues to be refined. It looked different last year. And then we have rubrics and are having some, there's official trainings we've done this year. It was pockets that we would see their defenses. We're seeing every student this year. So I feel like the initiative is much stronger this year and getting more refined. I do think it is really powerful that our fifth graders are leaving here with some of this language and really some of the end in mind of how these mindsets and behaviors, like Michelle said, like how they are not only present in where they are right now, but how they can see that in their future. For question 1, we have a great parent community at my school as far as like PTA involvement and appearance for events, but we do have a portion of our community that just due to the distance from where they live and work, it is difficult for them to be here to see some of our events in action and to see some of our kids leading and shining in these ways. So I think even just the development of some kind of flyer or having kids promote, even littles like I work with, promote some of these things to explain to parents. This could be, I feel like if we, make it friendly for them or get the buy-in of their kids helping develop it or be a part of it, they'll watch it. So that's something that came to my mind. And then for question 2, what I pictured when I saw, I don't know if it was all the colors of your diagram, but the frameworks, I feel like I pictured the castle circle with, all of the social emotional learning standards. And I feel like many of them with a crosswalk, we could easily tie those to the mindsets and our standards as well. So in our school, we as counselors, I have a partner. I'm really lucky in that sense. And we go into our grade levels every 2 weeks and do lessons. But in addition, our classroom teachers do social emotional learning. So I think it would be really powerful to do some kind of training with our staff to let them see their ownership and their development in their part in this as well, because there are so many standards through what they're doing that they're supporting with this work too. So those are just some initial ramblings and thoughts. Sorry.
Deeply appreciated, Paula. Thank you very much.
Rob, we have a couple in the chat. Rachel says she's on one portion of the Portrait of a Graduate at her school. We have various teams, and she is on the one specifically for positive and engaged cultural teams. So that is Rachel. So that's the part she is on. I dropped in the chat box a link to our school counselor student mindsets and behaviors. So that link is there, Rob, if you wanted to grab that. You don't have to go searching for it. And then Suzanne said our district has made great gains in K-8 SEL, but I think Portrait of a Graduate standards could definitely drive some of our high school SEL. Going to bring that up at our next district counselor cadre and see where we're at. That is a great idea because oftentimes people outside of specific roles, they hear SEL and they really don't know what that means. And so if we are able to tie that language into language that they already use and to see that connection, it makes it a little easier for folks.
Absolutely.
And it's just great advocacy for our work.
Certainly. So I just want to push on question 3 just a little bit and see if is there any piece that you feel that you don't know enough about to facilitate the use or alignment of these frameworks?
For me, Rob, I'm already thinking about in my next newsletter, pairing up these frameworks, tying it to their district framework if they have one, and showing folks how to do that crosswalk with our mindsets and behaviors. And if anybody would like to join me and create a sample document, please email me, let me know. I would love to have that collaboration with some folks in the schools actually doing the work.
All righty. Okay, so I'm going to stick around for a little bit just to capture some of the information from the chat. But I will say, actually, how rude of me. I didn't put a thank you slide. So I'll stop sharing and say in front of everybody, thank you very much for being here and sharing all this information. Genuinely, it was a pleasure. I plan to take all this information and take it back to our partnership with KDE and the Council for Post-Secondary Education and really see what happens next. And I'll be in conversation with Dr. Searcy about perhaps what further partnership looks like. And hopefully you see me again. And hopefully I get to join you again. So thank you all so much for allowing me your time today.
Thank you, Rob. We appreciate the presentation and the information. And this group is always pretty awesome, and they're always engaged and give great feedback. So anytime you need a mood boost, feel free to join us. The invitation is always open.
I love that. That's a gift. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, give me just a second here and let me get back to our slide. So we already did the feedback FAQ. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Judy Vandehar and Blake Coney. Judy and Blake, would you like to drive your own screen? I can stop sharing, or I can drive it for you. Which would you prefer?
I think we will drive.
Searcy. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Want to thank both of them for coming and presenting today. I tried to get them on in the last time we met in December, and they were both frantically working to get all of this new and amazing information so that they could deliver it to you all today. So thank you both. Thank you. We appreciate your work and for being here.
Thank you so much. And thank you all of you for having us here. So Dr. Vandehar, Judy and I have, like Michelle said, spent a lot of time being empowered learners. Rob, I'm going to use your language. So we saw a gap in the resources for human trafficking, and we wanted to fill that gap and wanted to make sure that we provided for a safer and healthier school system. And so we really dug into kind of research and work groups and experts in the field to grow in our own level of knowledge to be able to provide just a stronger safety net for the youth in our state. My name is Blake Coney, and I'll do a quick introduction. I work in safe schools. So my work is focused on the upstream prevention. So I do a lot of work with suicide prevention, bullying prevention, and some of the other mental health supports that we're putting into schools to ensure safety. Judy, you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, thanks. So my name is Judy, and I have been at the department for quite a while now, working in the division of student success. So the area that of focus, I'm on the persistence to graduation team. So that's really all things dropout prevention, which also includes a lot of the topic areas in safe schools. So I am super lucky to get to work across our branches on a lot of the topics around suicide prevention, even things like mindfulness. So it's really a fun place to be. All the things I care about, I get to work on. And there is definitely an intersection with dropout and trafficking. So as Blake mentioned, so we've been on the statewide human trafficking task force, and we're also on the committee for prevention and education. And one thing that we recognized is that, you know, also from working with young people my district is Jefferson County. I spent many years there, but I also work with young people as a mentor or godparent, and to see, and students also in alternative schools, to see like this is a reality, and it's a growing reality. It's the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world, and it's happening everywhere. It's happening in every type of neighborhood. And so our kids and that's this is what the world our kids are living in, and these are the things that they're you know um, exposed to, and it takes many different shapes. So the reason this is so important is that schools are, as you all know, obviously you guys are the experts in this piece, the one of the only areas really that we lay eyes on kids, right, as a society. And so the warning signs for trafficking, which we'll get into, are things that can be seen in schools. So I want to just show quickly, and that's why I have my screen this way, just because I'm going to toggle to a couple of reports that I think you all might be interested in. So one is Shared Hope International. And as you can see on this screen here, um, this is on specifically child and youth sex trafficking. That we have a score of D in Kentucky, and interestingly, our neighbors, Tennessee, has a score of A. So why is that? Well, first of all, if you're interested to see the entire composite score, the grade is made up of all of these things. So looking at the criminal provisions, identifying victims, access to justice for survivors of trafficking. The two areas that Kentucky is struggling with is that providing the continuum of care. So I do think it's great that we have a state interagency council where we have the different state agencies that support young people and system involved people come together. But the one area that Tennessee is really doing, why they have an A is one of the biggest reasons is because of the prevention and training, which they require for their schools, for all staff. So Kentucky does not require it for school staff, but we definitely have had something on the books that most people are not aware of, to that end. So hopefully we will continue to move down the path of work in the training and prevention area. So I'm also going to share with you some data that just came out. So this is a report by the LRC. So this is basically DCBS data. And obviously, just like with all of our data tools and data reports, it's only what's reported, right? So this is the number of investigations of child trafficking in Kentucky. And you can see it just, again, just like everywhere in the country, it's just continuing to escalate. So, and it looks like, 467 in the scope of the population of young people looks maybe small, but again, as you all well know, this is only what's being reported and investigated. So something I thought was interesting is looking at the regions. So you have, Jefferson has the most in terms of population. And again, this could be that, like, the Cumberlands, interestingly, is even higher than Jefferson County in the report. So maybe they're better at reporting, or maybe there's more instances actually happening there. But we know that what is happening is far greater than what's being reported and then what gets investigated. So, but it is happening across every region in Kentucky, at least that's being that of the reports. As far as gender, mostly female, but there are a lot of males, and males are less likely to be reported. And then it's mostly American-born children this is happening to. So again, a very little known law was passed in 2017 that requires schools to display the human trafficking hotline. Well, if you go into a school and if a student sees a human trafficking hotline, what does that mean, right? Because we know that the research is saying about between 40 and 60% of trafficking cases of children are familial trafficking. So that's families trafficking their kids. So we wanted to make sure that schools had posters that, and Blake will go through kind of what it includes, but posters where students could self-identify, kind of like screener questions on there, and things that included images that were not scary, because that's another thing that the field is evolving to understand. Those scary images with a man's hand over the mouth of a young child, those are not effective actually. So that is kind of an introduction. Now Blake is going to share something we're super excited about to have worked together with the communications office to develop. And Blake, are you gonna, I'll stop sharing so you can take control.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Judy. Appreciate it. So, like Judy said, there are posters out there. There are, most of the schools that we go into that, I kind of informally check for posters and I see them. A lot of time it is a scary image, or it's like, if you're being trafficked, call this number. And so a lot of victims, especially when we're dealing with youth, don't recognize it as trafficking. They don't even know that word. That's not part of their reality. For many who are like Judy mentioned, it's familiar, happening through the family. It's life, and they don't understand that, kind of what's happening to them. So we wanted to create a poster that, again, lowered the threshold to get help. So made it easier for victims to identify and to reach out for help, as well as to alleviate some of the fear that they may have. Many victims are worried that their actions are illegal, or that their actions are going to get them in trouble. So there is a hesitancy to self-report, and so we wanted to convey all that in the poster that we're providing. So I'm going to get us to our website. So if you go to the KDE website and search human trafficking, it'll take you to the human trafficking site. On the right side, you'll see a bunch of kind of laws and KRS that are requirements for schools. Again, all schools, K-12, need to have a poster that displays the human trafficking hotline. So we created 4 versions. The first version is shows kind of a young vignette of a student. We purposely didn't want to have a face to it, wanted to use, Kentucky imagery. And then, the screener questions that we're providing here are, if someone is offering you money or drugs or other valuables for sexual acts or photos, if you're being forced to work against your will or not paying you for work, if you're being threatened, hurt, or bribed, if you're being controlled, you feel like you can't talk openly to people that you trust, or controlling your schedule and movements. So these are all signs that trafficking is taking place. We obviously connect with the hotline number, as well as the ability to text. So youth can text the number. This number can also be used by friends or others who are concerned to make a report. It does not, have to be the victim. I would say most time it's probably not the victim, but someone they know or confide in who is making the report. Go back to our site. So we have English versions. We have a Spanish version as well. The other posters that we offer are basically the same, but have a kind of vignette of an older student. So if you're looking, at a high school, again, the outline just is a little bit different shape, and would appeal to or be more relatable to an older student.
And racially diverse too.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can pull that up real quick. Here we go. So yeah, that's the kind of the older student or diverse student. And one more thing I want to highlight here, and so this is not a requirement for the poster, but something that we've found to be invaluable and wanted to make sure was available to schools. NCMEC, or the National Center for Exploited or Missing and Exploited Children, has a program called Take It Down available. Looking back at my career as an assistant principal and principal in schools, one of the hardest things I've ever dealt with was sitting across from a student and their family, and that student tells you they've sent out nudes or compromising pictures, and there's no way to get those things down or take it back. Well, NCMEC has a resource available. It's called Take It Down. It is available to youth under the age of 18 that have taken explicit or nude photos. You can go to the website. They can upload that image. The image they upload gets a digital fingerprint, so it actually kind of gets converted from the image to just data. It has an image fingerprint. Take It Down, or NCMEC, works with thousands of sites that are in the pornographic business. If that image is on any of those sites, it gets removed. So it's just a way that we can support youth who have made, who have done something that they regret and want to resolve it. This is a way, or just an extra support that we can offer. And so we included that on the poster, again, just because we felt like it was such a great resource for youth, as well as for adults who work with youth. So that goes, if you go to our website, we are going to be, at the end of this, I will give you my email address, and if you'd like to email me, I can work to just send you physical copies of the posters. So you can download them. It's an 11 by 17, but is that right? I think it's 11 by 17 maybe, or 8 by 17.
It's 11 by 17. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. But again, I'll give you my email address at the end of this presentation, and please email me. You can let me know the number of posters that you would like, and I will send those to your schools. One more thing I want to highlight on so on our website, again, so if you're looking to expand the work that you all do, there's a link right here to how to, addressing human trafficking in schools and resources. It'll take you to the site. The first link here kind of helps you if you want to establish a program in your school, or PD in your school to help prevent human trafficking. This document or this resource can be really helpful for that. As we mentioned earlier, like, we are not experts. We are growing in our knowledge because this is an area that we, see as a need. It's an area that we're passionate about supporting. So we are looking to develop and grow in the resources that we offer to schools. And I think Judy will talk about some of the training that we'll have in the future. So again, something that, if you are looking to help this work or support this work, while it is not required as PD, which again is part of the reason that we have that low grade from the national resource, we would encourage you all to incorporate human trafficking in your PD plans, in your school plans for teachers and staff members, to give them. We created an updated protocol, and sorry, I didn't even talk about that yet. So we've created an updated protocol, which Judy will talk about in just a second here, which again can be a fantastic resource for any adult that works with youth. I'll turn over to Judy.
Okay, yeah, and those the curriculum that's available, the Love 146 is probably the more simpler way to start in the work. Excuse me, My Life, My Choice is, my goodness, sorry. Okay, my life, my choice is for females, and again, males. This is happening to many boys and young men. So they don't have that version ready yet, but the Love 146 is a pretty easy one, I think, to start with for the students. Also, I just wanted to know before I talk a little bit about the protocol that there has been 2 bills presented in this legislative session that deal with sextortion, which I know you as counselors are very aware that that is also happening with kids. So be on the lookout because one of them actually is going to require um, professional development training on that. So and for both students and adults. So we'll see what happens with that bill. And I think Blake's gonna. And, again, at a minimum, if the posters are a really important place to start. And when you send an email, if you can say what type of poster, do you want the Spanish, like in English, and the younger and older, or which one? Currently, we have just one of the versions printed, but that we'll be getting the others printed, and they don't take long at all. So just make sure you ask for request which one you want or which ones you want. Okay, so this protocol again is a nice, easy one-pager that all adults, including, oh, sorry, I should have muted myself. We'll put the emails are in the PowerPoint. We'll show you in a moment as far as where to order them. So again, for bus drivers, cafeteria clerks, teachers, everybody in the building, if they can just have this, these are the warning signs. And again, just like with youth mental health first aid, we're looking at like an aggregation of signs and symptoms. Even though just one of these could be a sign, you're going to look for multiple signs, obviously. So, and a lot of these things do overlap with mental health challenges, right, that people are experiencing. So I won't go over all of these. I mean, you all can read them on the screen. But I think just like not obviously, encouraging adults in the building not to ignore these signs. Because this is such a tough topic and a lot of it's so hard and some of the stories are so unbelievable that it's honestly hard for a lot of human psyches to digest what's happening. And so it's easier to kind of just look away from. So again, I think that's why as much as we can do, just some awareness of like making this part of the conversation because it is a part of the reality. And then action steps. Obviously, these are some common sense things. Just to note that the Child Protection Hotline in Kentucky, calling that in terms of these cases will result in quicker law enforcement response. That is one of the challenges with the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Sometimes maybe that link isn't made. So we really that Child Protection Hotline obviously is important. And then really want to highlight the last 2 things because this is again things we've learned from detectives who work in this area and from some of the few there are a couple of experts in Kentucky on this topic, and those are who we're being trained by. So but these bottom 2 is really important around not investigating, not conducting your own investigation, and not questioning the child or interviewing the child. Because in Kentucky for these cases they have multidisciplinary teams where the young person is really they only like them to be questioned once about it for the first time so that law enforcement, the social workers, the therapists, judges, everybody's seeing the video of the because there's a lot of challenges that happen when they're asked over and over and over in addition to re-traumatizing. It's other issues that can impede the investigation and the prosecution. So just wanted to highlight that. And yep, so those are just a couple of things. Again, even the posters and the protocol, starting with that. And then there are some curricula available. And if for the posters or training, so we'll be rolling out more extensive training with expanded capacity of 4 people in our office this summer. So you can request that to us if you want your staff trained or any support like that, or the posters. So our contacts are right there. And thank you guys so much for what you do. We're happy to answer any questions to the best of our ability. And thanks for your support.
Yeah, we really appreciate your all's time. And again, like our goal is just to create a safer and healthier environment for our youth. And just having these conversations helps that. And so anything we can do to strengthen that safety net, we're all about.
Thank you both so much. I want to give some space for folks to ask questions, either unmute or drop it in the chat. Sometimes it is easier if you unmute, just so we can get the full context of the question. 2 people have asked if you would be willing to, will this presentation be available?
Yep, you can email. I put it in the chat. We can just send a copy. It's actually been shared with the Superintendent's Advisory Council. Or actually, no, all the when the commissioner has, I know there's the advisory council and then there's the big superintendent meeting. So our division director shared the information with superintendent. So those who were in attendance did get to hear the information. So we're really trying to get the word out.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or feedback?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I was going to ask a question if there were none.
I just had a question, or maybe it's a thought. I'm in JCPS, and our district has does a big stadium type of presentation about human trafficking. And it's always felt weird to me that we would do something in such a big setting for something so sensitive. And I just wanted y'all's feedback on that, because I see the point of it, but I also just wonder if that's the best way to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think is it the Angel?
Yeah, it's the Angel. Yeah.
So I'm not 100% sure how that is necessarily being rolled out. I do know there is a challenge with the term itself of human trafficking, because it's, again, young people are not aware, but I do think raising awareness among as many adults who have eyes on kids, I think, is helpful. I don't know specifics enough to know to make like an educated opinion, I guess. About that.
You're fine. I was just, I'm trying to figure out like how, like as a school, as myself, I had thoughts about going into classrooms and like doing smaller presentations, but yeah, it was just something that's been on my mind.
I would definitely say that's probably more ideal to be able to do that. So I don't know enough to make an opinion about that, but I like the question. I think it's really important, like, because I do think intimate settings that feel safer are really helpful, especially if the result is to have students who might be involved, like disclosing it, help.
That's all. I was just wondering. No, you're good. It's just something that, and I'm kind of new back to the district, so I'm still figuring it out too.
Yeah. I'll just say this. My thoughts always are, when it comes to training safety, anything is better than nothing. So any type of safety net that we provide, even if it is not the absolute best, sometimes we get held back from doing the absolute best. We don't do anything. Anything we can do to create a safer and healthier school system, like for our youth, we should. So in front of everyone may not be the absolute best. And if you have the ability to grow in that field and train in smaller sessions, that probably would be a best practice. Glad that they're doing something though. Glad they're taking steps. Again, because then even a little bit safer is still safer than nothing.
What do you think about our like suicide prevention lessons, right? Like whole auditorium doesn't, research shows it's not the best format. Like we should really be pushing into smaller settings. And I'm sure this is probably aligned with that, but to Blake's point, anything is better than nothing. But after that big presentation, what a wonderful opportunity for a school counselor to go in to do classroom counseling lessons and to process what they heard and to really be able to think through, because as both Judy and Blake have said, oftentimes kids are trafficked and they don't know that that's what's happening. So when we use the word human trafficking, they're like, that's not happening to me. So there's some terminology, even helping students understand what human trafficking is and what they're going through could be that, especially when we think of how kids are groomed with gifts and how that feels on the student side versus what is happening on the trafficking side. Great question. Thank you for that. Any other thoughts? Judy and Blake, I'm wondering if in the future there might be an opportunity like to have a presentation for staff that goes through the protocol, the score. I think that was really powerful for me. I did not realize that Kentucky was a D-. And then our neighboring state, we have one neighbor that is an A and one neighbor that is an F. And we do not want to trend towards the F, of course. So even just a brief presentation that school counselors or principals can take to their staff to lead in a professional development to start there at the foundational level. Has there been any talk of developing anything like that schools could use?
Do you mean like a small video type thing where they can just share, or do you mean like because we are going to roll out training that for school staff and district staff in the summer.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh
Like
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
slide presentation that people can, like the presentation's already been developed and someone has gone through the training and then they can take it back to their staff.
Train the trainer.
Yes. For capacity's sake, train the trainer, because we know that's
yeah,
helps with longevity.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just working now on expanding our capacity at our office. And so, yeah, that's a really
excellent,
great thought. And so we will definitely have slide decks available.
Wonderful. Thank you guys both for being here today. I know that you worked really hard to get this together. Y'all, they have been diligently working behind the scenes. When I contacted them, I think back in November, and trying to make sure that this was ready as soon as possible. So thank you guys both for your work, your passion for the work. It is needed. And we look forward to any opportunities you have in the future. And if there's anything I can do to help, let me know.
Thank you, Dr. Searcy, and everyone on the call for all the work you do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Right. So I want to give a quick update on our mental health professional use of time. So two different things. One, we do have the report. We're working on the report to finalize that from this year's mental health professional use of time that we always do, that has to get submitted. And we were really looking at roles and responsibilities, how mental health professionals, how their positions are funded, and how they spend their time on a broad scope. So that report will be ready by the time that we meet for our very last council meeting in April. So you'll want to make sure you put that on your calendar. It should already be there. I sent out meeting invites to make sure that you're there so you can hear that feedback. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, last time that we met in December, I asked specifically this committee some questions about how you feel anonymously on the use of time and how it's collected and the impact that it's had on you. So here are the questions that I ask. What challenges do you face when tracking your time? Overwhelmingly from this group, almost every person mention the obvious, like time. Time is an issue. When do I have time to track my time? Like tracking my time needs to become another thing that I do so that I can say, this is how much time it took me to track. You get pulled into a lot of different directions. Being able to, when you do finally come back to your desk, to say, okay, this is how I spent my time today. When I go out and train school counselors on how they track their time, usually I try to get them to think about it in clumping them in totals, not necessarily every student that you saw, but if you were walking down the hall and you were out there during hall change to be visible and talk to kids, which is always great. If you were pulled and you did brief individual counseling for 30 minutes during that time, or you got pulled into a classroom to handle a situation, you could lump that all in as a direct student service to provide individual or whole group counseling or large scale counseling. Like there's ways that we can lump that together. So next year I will work on a guidance document that goes with the use of time that kind of helps bring that all together. And I'll probably be reaching out to some of our educational cooperatives to do that, to look at kind of some best practice one pager that helps school counselors with that. The other thing I asked you all is how you tracked your data is collected and reported at your school or district level. And that kind of goes along with the, I combined two of those. So for the large majority of you, actually half of you said that you were a part of that data collection process. So about 50% said, yes, I'm a part of that data collection process, and 50% said, no, I'm not. Like they're getting the data to report for the professional use of time. My district is getting that from somewhere else. They're not getting it from me. So that was eye-opening for sure. And I had heard that anecdotally, but to see that from this group added a little more weight to that. So I appreciate your honesty in that and giving me that feedback. Next, I ask, do you feel the data collected accurately reflects your work? Again, about half of you said that, yes, I feel like the data collected does reflect my work, and a little more than half said that it does not. And that really pairs with the question before, right? Those that felt like the data collected accurately reflected their work are the same ones that said, I have input. Like I am being asked for my data. So there was a huge correlation between folks that reported their own data saying that, yes, it accurately reflected my work. And then the last question was, have you noticed any positive impacts of the mandate, such as greater awareness of the work that you do as a school counselor or improved advocacy for mental health services? So the first little bit was a little bit of a downer, but let me bring you back up on a positive note. Almost 100% of you said yes, that even though the use of time has some flaws in it, we do feel like there has been opportunities for us to advocate for our role, to talk about why this is so important for us to spend direct services with students versus indirect. So there has been an increase of awareness and advocacy for the work that our mental health professionals do in our school system. So we do have some struggles to overcome, but knowing that there is still positive, even if we have things that we can improve upon. I just want to pause there, get your all's feedback. Does that surprise you? Probably doesn't, because this is the group I heard that from, or anything that you would like to talk about, or on ways that maybe next year when we report, the questions will remain the same. And for me, I'm thinking about what guidance can I better provide, or best practices that I can provide to superintendents for when they are gathering this data. Like that is already the way my mind is tracking. Thoughts, questions, comments, and y'all, there's a reason why I did that anonymously. And there may be a reason why you're not unmuting here, knowing that this is being recorded and put on the webpage, which is okay. I want to create safe spaces for you. And that's why the survey was sent out versus having just a direct conversation. Yeah, Rachel, any guidance or tools we can use to track our time would be helpful. I will definitely get you some of those. And if you would like, if any district feels like they want to have something before the summertime or next year, you can email me and I am more than happy to share some resources with everyone. I can 100% do that. All right. So I just want to thank you all for the time that you have given us today. Our next meeting is in April. I am going to give you back about 8 minutes, 7-8 minutes of your morning. Thank you for being a part of this. I know this is a service that you're doing. You're volunteering and you have one more year of this service. This is a 3-year track. So next year we will start opening up applications for the following year for folks to be on our school counselor advisory. So you guys have folks in mind that you want to make sure that they submit that application that you think would be really good. When I have school counselors on school counselor advisories, I desperately need people that are going to lift up the voices of other school counselors. This is the mechanism to do that. And this group is fantastic. You've heard it from our other speakers, how, a lot of times when we have KDE advisories, it's crickets and you're trying to push and pull things out of people. And I don't get that from y'all. So thank you for that. Thank you for being active members. If there are folks that you think would be great candidates for this in the future, when I start to send out those applications next fall, you all will be the first to hear about it. And you can help to get folks on board. So thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Spring is right around the corner. Hold on. You can do hard things. And the next time we talk, you will be preparing for end of year graduations, and then summer's right around the corner. So thank you all. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for joining today.